Hello everybody, it's that time of year again when No Pun Included selects one game and one game only, the best of the best, the cream of the crop, to be No Pun Included's Game of the Year.
I know board games are getting bigger, but this cannot be one game.
It is only one game. I can explain. What I don't want you to think is that somehow this year was bad for board games. If that was true, we wouldn't have a Game of the Year video at all. There was a rich abundance of wonderful releases that constantly delivered on cardboard joy and excitement. But there wasn't one game that was a clear winner.
I get it. What you're saying is by only celebrating one game, we're overlooking a whole bunch of other wonderful releases and not giving them the spotlight they deserve. And to remedy that, we should have lists of categories of games of the year rather than one definitive scene stealer.
Thank God you said that. Honestly, I was just winging that last bit. I had no idea where I was going. But yeah, categories. Let's do those. Go on, do us the category. What's the first one?
How am I supposed to do a category?
Just make something on Photoshop in post and then put a sound effect over it. Honestly, it's gonna be great. You know what they say, old is the new, which is kind of weird because by being new it stops being old. But don't think about that. Think about all the wonderful games that were remade this year. Castles of Burgundy, Ra, Amun-Re, Zoo Vardis. If 2023 was the year of anything, it was the year of the remake.
Sounds a bit like Ryan Knizia just had a really good sales team for his older titles and then Castles of Burgundy was remade again. Are you sure this is a real category?
I am sure, because the winner of No Pun Included's Old Game of the Year for 2023 is...
Okay, this just got real.
Can you believe that El Grande is as old as Catan? I couldn't, because whilst Catan has been showing its age for more than a decade now, El Grande still confidently stands as a game that should be part of anyone's collection. Ruthless, lean, and full of satisfying moments, El Grande easily tops the list of best new old games. With lovely new art as well. We'll have more words on El Grande in very early 2024. Quick, come up with a new category.
Alright, this one is easy. All you've been playing this year is trick-taking games. Maybe if you played some other games, we could have picked just one game of the year like we always do.
Like many this year, I've been bitten by the trick-taking bug, the oldest genre of card game in the world, which is experiencing a torrential resurgence thanks to the popularity of games like The Crew and Scout. But my oh my, does the world of trick-taking not stop there, with many designers really pushing the envelope of what can be achieved with not just the same core mechanism, but also the same rules. What I love about trick-taking is that the same core rule set and the same skill set that you learn and practice can then split off and morph into almost anything you want it to be. This year I played trick-taking bidding games, trick-taking deduction games, trick-taking cooperative games, trick-taking team games, trick-taking party games, trick-taking solo games, trick-taking area control games, trick-taking with bots, dice, trick-taking where you can't see the cards you're holding. It feels like every entry into the genre has something new to offer, but is somehow the same game you always enjoy. Much more on trick-taking in 2024.
You know what I love? Giving a Game of the Year to a game that didn't win Game of the Year. That's pretty much what our Game of the Year videos have been so far, digging out one clunky gem and applying some of that NPI spit polish.
Wait, do I have to spit on camera? I'll do it if I have to, but I don't think anyone wants to see that.
Let me check the script. You just wrote, I don't know how to write myself out of this one. I think you might have to spit.
I'm just gonna do this instead.
Honestly, I've never felt so confident in recommending a game that everyone should try. If your jam is beautiful nature-themed games with an abundance of cards that ask you to build a point combo strategy, you might turn to Wingspan, Earth, Ark Nova. Is this a genre now? Never mind, just try Forest Shuffle. You will be surprised. I was blown away by how smooth and satisfying Forest Shuffle felt. It's broadly approachable but doesn't shy on the crunch part. I think Forest Shuffle is a real winner, although if balance issues are a worry, there is some hubbub from the community in that department. You might want to have a look on BGG. There's one thing that people know me for, it's for being a trendsetter, and that's why I've never been impressed with board game fads. Neoprene playmats? Please, keep it for swimming. Roll and rights? I can barely cope with this mole in tights. But even I couldn't have predicted that this year's fad would be good, actually, because publishers in 2023 decided to band together and go green. I know green means different things to different people. There's definitely environmental issues that board games will find hard to overcome, considering they're physical products that need to be manufactured and shipped. But a surprising amount of publishers opted to switch to more environmentally sustainable components, like cards and boxes no longer being wrapped in shrink, components made out of FSC certified paper, and total or near total abolishment of plastic. It's a good move forward, especially when other publishers are opting for the opposite approach, selling full sets of sleeves to go with their games, or replacing the boards with the aforementioned neoprene playmats because they're spill-proof or whatever. Listen, count how many times you've spilt something on a board game enough to actually cause damage against the environmental destruction of every board game containing components that will pointlessly last 500 years, and hopefully you will find a discrepancy in your conscience that should be accounted for. So the industry fad of the year goes to Earthborn Games, Hans im Glück, Lookout Games, CMYK, and others for opting to manufacture games with a look towards the future. Thank you for pushing the envelope.
If there's one thing that board gamers really love, is buying an expensive box that requires the same group of people to play the same board game every week, awkwardly trudging on, testing the boundaries of their relationship. Board games are magical. As bloated and messy as they are, campaign games constantly push the envelope of what's possible and are frequently responsible for the innovation we see in board game design. This year saw a number of ambitious releases in the campaign game genre, from Earthborn Rangers redefining what you can do with a game where you build a deck out of a pool of cards, to Dorfromantik redefining what it even means to win a board game, to a bunch of highly anticipated sequels from Sleeping God's Distant Skies to Frosthaven. But there's one game that stood above the others for challenging the idea of what a standard dungeon crawling experience should even be. Which is a weird thing to say, because in many ways, Kinfire Chronicles is like a standard dungeon crawler. Each session you will have a little bit of story, and then you have a fight where you'll fight baddies. But unlike in most dungeon crawlers, you will fight only one baddie or some baddies, and it'll feel more like a kind of a boss battle scenario, putting this in the boss battler subcategory of the dungeon crawler oeuvre. And also, you will control a character, but unlike in most deck building games, this is a deck building game, you will not play a bunch of cards from your hand each turn. You will only play one card and rely on other players to assist you outside of their turn. It's a really nifty system. Kinfire Chronicles bumps the long playtime and infinite scenarios to a curated 21 scenarios, each lasting a svelte 45 minutes, with tactical combat that leans so hard on the tension of chance that it recontextualizes what chance means. I'll be frank, not all of what Kinfire Chronicles does works, and I recommend waiting for our actual video review before you commit an eye-watering $150 for this box. But clean combat gameplay and bold design choices put it just above the rest. Really? Okay, I've been wrong. So very wrong about a game. I wasn't even wrong this year. It was just now that I've realized how wrong I was. And it is time to to rectify that. When Dune Imperium came out, what I really wasn't looking for was a deck builder movie tie-in game. I still have acid burns from the last time I played Legendary Aliens, and not the fun kind of acid burns where a teammate tries to shoot a facehugger off your face in a last-ditch effort to save you. Just the acid burns of boredom. Dune Imperium looked derivative, unappealing, and dull. So, I skipped it. What an idiot. Dune Imperium Uprising is a standalone sequel, but not really a sequel and more of a reworking of the original Dune Imperium. A combination of deck building and worker placement that promises you to have a really bad time if you play it like a deck building or worker placement game. Instead, it is a melange that serves to facilitate a game of tension between tight economies and a race to be the first to get to 10 victory points. A race game with tight economies, that's exactly my jam. And this jam, it's good jam. So there you go, I was totally wrong to not play Dune Imperium, and this sequel alone is even better. More on Dune Imperium Uprising sooner than you might think. The whole point of this video was that so I wouldn't have to pick one game. And now we've done all of the categories and you're making me pick one game?
Don't be a baby, just pick a game of the year. People want a game of the year.
Okay, let me just think for 5 minutes.
Wow, it's been 2 weeks. We're still wearing the same clothes and your beard hasn't grown.
And I've used all this time to figure out that I couldn't decide what my game of the year was because I couldn't admit to myself that I was wrong. And then you made me admit to myself that I was wrong. And now I'm finally free. Free of guilt, fear, doubt, free to do this. I love this game. To think that I've spent 3 years not playing Dune Imperium. It's okay, I'm gonna make up for it now. Listen, we're gonna have to do a dedicated video reviewing Dune Imperium and this new Uprising version, but I want to give you a little taste to help you figure out if you want to get in on this delight of a board game. Like I said before, it's a deck building game and a worker placement game where you're trying to be the first person to get to 10 points. Each turn you can send one of your agents to a space where no other player has an agent and do things there, but you can only send them to spaces as long as you can play a card with a matching symbol. If your card has any effects, you also execute those, and any cards you have left over at the end of the round, you turn in for the Persuasion and other abilities and purchase new cards to go into your deck. But the rules of Dune Imperium are not as interesting as the feel of Dune Imperium. It's not a game about buying cool cards or blocking spaces for other players, although those can be important. It's a game of weaving through opportunities. No one space on the board is amazing, and you will more likely than not make sacrifices whenever you choose a space. The gains are small, but the demands are big. The influence tracks each reward you with a victory point as soon as you move your influence marker past the second space, and another victory point to the one person who's reached space 4. They get to keep that last point only if someone doesn't surpass them. The other victory points come from winning battles by having the most troops in the conflict. Only certain spaces allow you to deploy troops to conflicts. Managing all of this is opportunistic and costly, and if I had to go by feel alone, I'd say that Dune Imperium most closely resembles Terra Mystica of all things. If you enjoy inching yourself towards victory with constant sacrifices in a game that incrementally expands your abilities, if you enjoy outsmarting your opponents with a well-timed move and a dash of good luck, this might be your jam. A brief word on which version to get. It's this one. Get this one. By now I've tried both, and whilst they're very similar, Uprising recontextualizes a lot of what Dune Imperium took for granted and asks new, more interesting questions. Longtime fans of the series might miss the expansions that the original received, but there's no doubt in my mind that this will be expanded too. This is the best jumping in point into the series, and if you want to see what the older version was like, the app version on Steam is Pretty spiffy for that. I've been enjoying my time on it.
I think June Imperium Uprising is pretty great too, and it was almost my game of the year. But you may recognise that piece, John Cage's 433, a purposefully silent piece of music bringing your attention not to what others want you to hear, but what you actually do hear. That is an example of a lacuna, the space between something else, an emptiness creating feelings of both serenity and disquiet. And so too is this lacuna. Lacuna is a two-player abstract interpretation of collecting flowers from a lake at night. In its first movement, you'll take a pawn of your colour, gold or silver, and place it in the space between two flowers in a straight line, which you then pick up. Once all the pawns have been placed, you'll move on to the second movement, the space between the pawns and any remaining flowers. By distributing the flowers closest to each of the pawns, each player will build on what they've already collected. As soon as you have 4 flowers of one colour, you've won that colour. Collect 4 flowers in 4 colours each, and you've won overall. Not only is that very brief description almost everything you need to know to play, but the setup is one of the easiest and most pleasurable beginnings of a game I've ever come across. So satisfying. A simple, calming premise that can be played in a simple, calming way. Or not, because underneath there is a turbulence that might land you somewhere you didn't expect to be. It's just you and one other person sitting around a beautiful lake, tactically vying for optimal placements to collect flowers. There is a millefeuille of things I love about this game, from how it looks to how approachable it is, to the head-holding dilemma of where to place your pawns, not only so you can collect what you want now, but so they're closest to something else, and then watching your opponent pick up those exact same flowers. This game gives you minimal tools and says, go to work. Lacuna won't be for everyone. There is a looseness that some players just won't enjoy. Measuring distances by eye or awkwardly with a little plastic ruler, I imagine is like chewing on fiberglass for some people who need precision. But Lacuna knows exactly what it wants to present to you within the silence, and for me, does it gloriously.
Amazing! So many games of the year, it's almost like some sort of a Christmas buying guide that came very late.
Actually, there's one more Game of the Year award we still have to do.
Okay, this is just getting ridiculous now. Maybe let's tone it down a little.
But we haven't done the GOTY for NPI's most important member. You're going to have to pull it off for her, she's got no fingers. That's right, it's Robot Tied to a Sock. Congratulations, publishers of Robot Tied to a Sock. You've really outdone yourselves.
And congratulations to the rest of the winners. To make it official, every individual board game that won within its category is, no pun included, Game of the Year.
That's it for us this year. We'll have one more episode of Talk Cardboard, that's our board game podcast, on Christmas Day, with a bonus patron-only episode on our worst of the year.
Savage. Did you get me anything for Christmas?
Yeah, I got you more subscribers. Here they are, clicking on the subscribe button now.
Amazing. I got you a bunch of new patrons. That's the people who like our work so much, they click a link in the description and give us a bit of money every month on a website called Patreon.
That's my favourite. And if we get enough of them, I might actually get you a proper Christmas present.
Goodbye, everybody.
Merry Christmas.